Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. This is one of those practices where you're going to need a chair. We're going to use it for a bit of our flow, and it wants to be a chair that has a pretty solid seat to it, not squishy or wobbly, because we're going to put a little bit of body weight onto the seat of our chair. So you will want that. I'm standing on a yoga mat. If you don't have one, find a place in your house that's not too hard or slippery. So maybe where you've got a rug or some carpeting, and that can be your yoga mat for today. I also have a folded towel. I'm going to guess that you might have one of those in your house. And I do have 2 blocks. If you don't have blocks, maybe there are a couple of sturdy books that you could use instead. Once you have the things that I've suggested, we will start, as we so frequently do, with our feet hip distance in mountain pose, which is the bedrock of all yoga poses. Little soft bend to your knees, and think of this as an opportunity for beautiful posture. Ears over shoulders, over hips, over heels. Chin parallel to the ground, and I like to say we are gazing at our bright horizon. We'll pause here just for a moment to land and to find our breath. If you can, let your breath be in and out through your nose. I'll be silent for a few moments here. We'll add on. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands onto your thighs. Inhale, traction your hands onto your thighs and get a little bit longer through your spine. Exhale, hinge a bit deeper in your hips, but keep your head higher than your hips. And then inhale, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Stand, arms along your side, palms face out, and we find that beautiful posture. Ears over shoulders, over hips, over heels. We'll flow that a little bit. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale, tractioning, length through your spine. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips, and then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Arms along your side, palms face out. Inhale, arms swoop out and up, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale, traction, length through your spine. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips, and then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Float your arms along your side. One more time, just like that. Inhale, V shape. Exhale, hip hinge. Inhale, hands to thighs, length to your spine. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Float your arms along your side. Chair pose, bend your knees, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. And then stand as you exhale and float your arms along your side. We'll do that again. Inhale, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, stand, float your arms along your side. Twice more, chair pose, inhale. Exhale, stand, arms float alongside you. Inhale, chair pose, pause. And then exhale, float, arms along your sides, and stand into your mountain. We'll combine those two. Chair pose is our inhale, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs. Inhale, traction, lengthen to your spine, and then exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Stand into your mountain, float your arms along your side, palms face out. Again, inhale, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands on your thighs. Inhale, traction, length into your spine. Exhale, a little bit more hinge at your hips, and then chair pose, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Stand, arms along your side. Inhale, chair. Exhale, fold. Hands on thighs, inhale, lengthen your spine. Exhale, hip hinge. Inhale, chair pose. Exhale, stand. Twice more. Chair pose, inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, hands on thighs. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, inhale. Exhale, stand into the majesty of your mountain. Last one, chair pose, inhale. Exhale, hip hinge, hands to thighs. Inhale, heart lifts. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips. Inhale, chair pose, thumbs to the sky, and then stand. Arms float along your side. This is where we use our chair. Bring it to the short edge of your mat, or if you're not on a mat, just imagine. You can kind of have an imaginary mat. And have it so that it's within reach off the front edge of your mat, or probably about a foot away from you. And we'll be able to play with that and fix it if it's not quite where you want it to be. We'll take our chair pose into this mix, or this direction. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale, lengthen through your spine. Take your hands onto the seat of your chair and just step your feet back. So it's like the beginning stages of a down dog, but we keep our head higher than our hips. And you're going to feel some oomph into your arms. What I don't want is bent elbows out to the side and you wearing your shoulders and your ears. So I'd like you to feel your arms' strength. Let them be straight and strong. Imagine the inner upper arms spinning in front of you and your heart extending forward. You can have a little bit of bend in your knees. Your hips are lifting up and back. You're standing strongly into your legs. There's an uplift of your low belly, so an awareness of some trunk stability. We're not just collapsed into our arms at all. And then we will step forward, so we're back into that feet about a foot from your chair stance. Take your hands to your thighs like we've been doing. Inhale your heart forward. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky, and then stand and float your arms along your side. We'll do that again. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward and place your hands mindfully on your chair. Remember, that's a solid chair. Step back about 5 inches, maybe a little bit more, and we have a little bit of a feeling of a down dog, but our head stays higher than our hips. Think outer upper arms hugging in, inner upper arms spinning towards the back of your chair, and then mindfully step within that foot of your chair. Bend your knees, hands to your thighs. Inhale, lengthen your spine, and then exhale, hinge at your hips. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Stand. Float your arms along your sides. One more time. Chair pose, inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Keep that heart forward feeling as you place your hands on your chair, and we step back once we're solid and not wobbly. And then we just explore, oomping into our arms a bit, inner upper arms spinning forward, outer upper arms hugging into what feels like a midline. Your hips are lifted, your feet are solid, your breath is steady. And then step within a foot of your chair, hands to your thighs with your knees bent, heart lifts. Exhale, hinge at your hips, and then chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Float your arms along your sides. Chair pose. Fold at your hips, hands to your thighs. Inhale, heart forward. Take your hands one more time onto your chair. We'll step back just briefly into that feeling of down dog and oomph into your arms. We'll keep the oomph in our arms. Probably we will step forward a little bit because we're going to use this oomph in our arms to come to the floor. So take your time, and you can then move your chair out of the way. So you can take that and just move it a little bit out of your way. Likely that as we move on, you'll want to use your folded towel. So have that within reach. We will set up. I'll turn this way so that you can see me. We're getting a little bit of oofing. So we're oomphing in our arms, but there's a little oofing from Tippy, my dog. Now, I like to pad my right knee with the towel, and maybe you'll decide to do the same. We will set it up so that our right hand, our right knee, and our left foot are all on a middle line, if you're using a mat or not, as if a line were true for all of them. And I like to keep my right toes curled under. Then bring your left hand onto your hip. We're not collapsed into our right shoulder. That's really important. So remember the oomping into our arms that we did on our chair. And maybe Tippy's just reminding us of that with her oof. Press into your right hand and feel that there's some space between your shoulder and your ear. Now, it might be that you take your left arm, thumb to the sky. If that's happening, you're not pinching your left shoulder into your ear either. Perhaps, while we're here, and this is completely optional, you might want to take your right hand a bit further forward if you do take this option. You might try lifting your left leg off of your mat. No collapse into the right shoulder, especially if you're lifting that leg. 3 moments here. If it's too long, you can always come out of it before I mention it. If you have your left leg lifted, put it on the ground, take your left hand onto your hip for all of us, take a gaze down to where we're going, and exit onto all fours. Now I'm going to spin around. You don't have to be spinning around, but I'm spinning around so that you can see me and I can not turn my back on you. Second side, it's left hand, left knee, and then right foot on that middle line. I keep my left toes curled under. You don't have to. I find it to be helpful. And then right hand on your hip. Now, let's build it from the ground up. So your hand is spread wide and oomping into your mat, just like we did with our hands on our chair. There's no collapse into our left shoulder. There's a hugging underneath of your left hip. There's a bit of trunk stability. You have the option, if you like it, to take your right arm to the sky, thumb to the sky. If you look down, sometimes that helps with balance. If you want more challenge, look sideways. If you're game, and it could take walking your left hand out a little bit further forward, you can play with lifting your right leg off of your mat. Not required, just if it's fun. Last few moments here. Remember how I said, imagine your inner upper arms spinning in front of you? See if you can imagine them spinning away from each other here. If you took your right foot off the ground, put it back down, take your right hand onto your hip, look down so we know where we are, and then come onto all fours. Now, let's come kneeling for a moment and just press the backs of our hands together, because when we're on our hands like this is called wrist extension, and that can start to feel like a lot. So you're always welcome to twirl your wrists or press the backs of your hands, which puts the wrist into what's called flexion as a bit of a counter pose for it. So do that anytime you need. Now, we will come onto hands and knees, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the alignment of this. So on our hands and knees, we don't want our hands like super far forward where we collapse into our shoulders. So you want shoulders and wrists to be on a vertical line as best as you can find that. The other thing is we're not collapsed, our shoulder blades towards each other. We're oomping into our arms, our hands, just like we did on our chair. And there's an uplift of our belly, so we're not dumped into our low back either. And already, there's kind of an intensity to this. If you're really paying attention to the circumference of both palms, so just think of a circle around both of your palms, and it's fully connected to the ground. Feel the length of your fingers here on the ground. And then maybe step your left foot back and keep your toes curled under. Now, can you keep an evenness in your hands and the oomping into your arms, even though now you have one footstep behind you? Couple breaths here. And then bring your right knee next to your left knee. Let's find that oomph into our arms, just in case it got lost a little bit with the one leg behind us. If you need to do those things with your wrists that I showed you, great time to do it. And then you'll come back and join us. Remember, shoulders over wrists, and then left foot steps back, and we keep the toes curled under. And we're trying to keep an evenness of weight in our hands, even though there's different things going on with our two legs. There's an asymmetry. It's asymmetrical in our lower body, but we want symmetry in the foundation of our hands. Last few moments here. Now step your left knee onto the ground. Come up. Let's do our pressing the backs of our hands together. You can stick with what we just did, and that's perfect. Or I'm going to give you an option to try it a little bit more intense. So let's come back, hands and knees, and think about shoulders over wrists. Step your right foot back. Maybe step your left foot back too. 2 moments, we got to oomph into our arms. So if you've got both knees off your mat, that's a lot of oomph, don't you think? And then bring your knees, both of them, to your mat. If you need a little of this in between sides, totally get it. We will come onto hands and knees one more time. This time, step your left foot back, and that's enough unless you want to step your right foot back too. And here we are in our plank position, oomping our arms, lifting our belly, making sure that there's not a sag to our hips or in between our shoulder blades. And then both knees onto your towel or your mat, and we'll come up and press the backs of our hands together. We want to get strong in our arms and shoulders and torso, but our poor little wrists sometimes are like, what are you doing? Why so much weight on me? So we got to be nice to them. A couple moments here. One more time, onto hands and knees. Now, if you need to take breaks, if this is too much on your arms or these poor little wrists, a child's pose is a great place to be. That's just with your knees apart. You're going to keep your toes curled under or not, and you can sit back to wherever it's a comfortable resting place, which might even involve using your block or book underneath your forehead. So if it becomes too much on your wrists, I understand, or too much on your arms even. Now, hands and knees, we're oomping into our arms. We will step our right foot back, just like we were doing. This time, however, take your left arm forward, thumb to the sky. That means you gotta really oomph into that right arm. This is plenty. I would prefer that you think about trying to keep your shoulder and ear together so that we're not just jutting our chin forward. And if it feels appropriate, and you are the expert, I am the guide, maybe you lift your right leg. Now, if you're doing that, I don't want collapse. So there's nothing wrong with keeping your right toes curled under and on the ground as we're here. There's quite a bit of arm strength. There's trunk stability. And by the way, there needs to be breath. 5 moments here. Great, release your left hand and your right knee and sit back, twirl your wrists, press the backs of your hands together, and know that we just have one more time on our wrists. We'll come back to hands and knees with our shoulders vertical in alignment with our wrists. You're feeling the circles of your palms and your fingers in the ground, and then step your left foot back, toes stay curled under. Oomph into your arms and keep it that way as your right arm reaches forward, thumb to the sky. This is enough. Only if you know that it's not going to be a collapse or too much for that left wrist, might you lift your left leg. And then we have 5 moments on this side. Great, release your right hand and your left knee. Sit back, let's do a twirl. Let's press the backs of our hands together. And then we'll all take a child's pose. And design it so that it makes sense in your body. For some of us, knee flexion, which is a fancy way of saying bending our knees this much, doesn't feel very restful. So you could even just do something that's a little bit more like being on your forearms with your hips to the sky. Just a place where we can kind of land closer to the earth, find our breath, be off of our wrists. A couple of moments here to digest. I've got one more shenanigan up my sleeve for you. Ready? You'll probably not want your towel underneath your knees anymore, so you can move that off to the side. Slide onto your belly, and once you're on your belly, Sphinx pose, forearms on your mat, traction your chest through the gateway of your arms. Right now your toes are not curled under. And then we're going to curl our toes under. And you'll just do your best here. Take your forearms maybe an inch closer to you. Oomph into your arms like we just did with that plank and what's called bird dog when we were reaching our arm and leg away from each other. Now oomph into your forearms until you can lift your chest and your belly and your hips and your thighs and maybe even your knees off your mat in a forearm plank. You can leave your knees down. You might appreciate that. That might feel a lot better to you. Then return your knees to your mat if you took them off the ground. Slowly thighs, hips, belly. Uncurl your toes. Let it become a Sphinx pose. And your Sphinx pose is chin parallel to the ground. We tend to do more with our neck because it's very pliable. Instead, let it be that you feel an imprint of your shoulder blades as if they're moving through to your heart. We'll do that one more time. Curl your toes under, oomph into your arms, fill out the cavity between your shoulder blades, so really feel a karate chop of your forearms. And then just slowly, see where it lands for you. You'll lift your ribs, your belly, your hips, your thighs. You can leave your knees down or venture your knees off of your mat. And we're holding it for 3, so if you need your knees back down again, go for it. 2 more. Return your knees, thighs, hips, belly, uncurl your toes, Sphinx pose. Now lower down, make a pillow with your hands and rest your head to one side. I'm not going to quite do that because I will swallow my microphone and you won't enjoy that. Bend your knees and windshield wiper your legs side to side. It should feel lovely. Just a little release of some pretty intense arm stuff, wouldn't you say? And actually, not just arms, but trunk and shoulders. And then from here, roll over onto your back. Once you're on your back, step your feet hip distance. Take your arms out to the side, and then scoot your hips to the right and let your knees spill over to your left. So it's a little bit like what we just did on our belly, where you windshield wipered, but now your windshield wipers are over to your left and you're on your back. Take maybe your left leg and place it on top of your right thigh. If that is too much or painful in any way, go back to just the windshield wiper that we started with. We'll stay here a couple moments. Now, left foot comes off of right thigh, carefully, if you did that. And then we'll come back to center. Scoot your hips maybe a little bit to your left and windshield wiper your legs over to the right. And this is plenty. Right here is great. If it feels good, right ankle on top of left thigh. If it doesn't feel good, honor that. couple moments here. Now pay attention to the transition. Take your right ankle off of your thigh, come back to center, and then from here just scoot so that you know that you're centered, because we did that scooting to the side for our twist. It might be that you want to have books or blocks for this. It's relatively simple, but it actually does the trick. Bottoms of your feet together, butterfly your knees out to the side. If this is too intense, take your 2 blocks or your 2 books and put them underneath your thighs. And that'll make it a little bit more comfortable, but there'll still be a bit of feedback, some sensation. We'll meditate here for a couple of minutes. That might be the biggest stretch of all. Place a hand on your heart and a hand on your low belly and let your eyes close. Maybe even cover your eyes. If you're uncomfortable with your eyes closed, don't worry, just keep a soft gaze, that's perfect. Fall into the floor and fall into your props. And I'm going to be silent for a full minute. That was a full minute. Now, let's start to gently make our way out of this pose. So just draw your knees towards one another. That's kind of when you realize that something happened. The stretch in your inner thighs that you're feeling, right? And maybe in your hip joints even. And move your blocks aside if you use them. We'll come into our final Shavasana meditation. Just spill yourself across the floor. If you're cold, you can cover yourself with a blanket or put your hoodie on or whatever it is that you need. And then just like our hip stretch a moment ago, if you're uncomfortable closing your eyes, a soft gaze is great. But another opportunity to surrender. No more efforting. Shavasana, final meditation. Welcome to stay in your Shavasana final meditation as long as you'd like. If you're ready, light movement in your fingers and toes and maybe a stretch of your arms and legs away from each other. Collect your knees into your chest. Roll to either side and up to any comfortable way for you to sit. Once you're seated, fold a prayer in front of your heart or place your hands upon your heart. Pause to appreciate. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us doing it again together soon.